This is JR from West Virginia and Commonplace. This is the after show with Raegen. Raegen, I need you to pronounce your last name for me one more time, please.
Sure. Pietrucha.
Pietrucha. Now, with Pietrucha, can you spell that for me? Can you get me hooked on phonics real quick?
It is Pietrucha, and the C is silent because it's a Polish last name. And when it's taken, I think, out of Cyrillic or whatever language symbols stuff, that letter gets thrown in, much like C's. So the C's, the Z's, the Y's in Polish last names are always going to be pronounced differently. The V's will be pronounced like W's. Things of that nature. Or no, I'm sorry, the W's will be pronounced like B's usually.
Okay. Because to the native person, it looks like pie trucker.
Pie trucks.
Yeah, pie trucker. Okay, so you write books, and this is like the after show. This is like the little fun stuff that we like to do. Had a great time talking to you. Was there anything that we missed in the episode? Because you get to talking and things like that. Did we miss anything?
No, I mean, I gave you the cheat to phase 10. I don't know what more you could ask for.
So let me ask you this about the trailer, because we didn't get to talk about that, but and the audience knows that this will definitely be up on both premium parts of Spotify and Apple, and I'll do a little treat. I might throw it up somewhere else. So anyway, this going back over here to this video, you turn it on, and I'm thinking it was going to be something crazy. It says Medusa has never been so alive. See somebody's hand out there with a flower. See somebody's eyebrow. And it says, as here in this drama. Who came up with the concept of this? Because then you see a snake slithering around. Who came up with this concept?
So I actually built that video myself in Canva for free.
Oh.
So yes, please, like authors, any kind of creators, Canva, if you are not familiar with it, is free. You can do so much with it, including building your own book trailers. And if you even just go to YouTube and do it, like search video, how to create your own book trailer, there's a video by somebody on there that basically included in the notes at the bottom all of these free links to free stock video, free stock images, and free stock music. And so that's exactly what I did. I know what my book is about better than anybody. So I knew what I was more or less trying to communicate. And I knew that I wanted it to be abstract, obviously, given the nature of the subject. So I then just started looking through these free video clips online based on these websites that this person on YouTube suggested. And, I'm looking up snakes, I'm looking up, mirrors, I'm looking up, dark goth stuff, because that's how I often refer to my writing and myself. And then I just kind of put it together, and then it was 3 minutes long, and I sent it to an old colleague but current friend, still friend.
Okay, that's how you doing, colleague.
Again, I won't make that same mistake as I made with the photographer. But I sent it to him, and he was like, "This is too long. Here's what you need to do." And he told me, just like, do this, do that, and then you should be good. And so I did that. I cut it down to less than a minute, I believe.
Right at 59 seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
1 second off.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I got to do it. Like, I can't turn this out and have it be like a disaster. I sent it back to him, and he's like, it's perfect. Like, you're good. Just do it. Send it out. So I was like, okay, cool. So that's how I got to the book trailer video. The text itself is part of a blurb for the book. And in the original version, the 3-minute version, which he called very kindly the avant-garde version, I actually used lines from the poems, but he was like, I don't think people aren't going to get it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's valid. But he's like, but what about this quote part that you used at the end? What if you broke it down like this? Again, part of his notes to me, to move it from 3 minutes down to 1. And so that's what I did. I broke down the quote into, I think, 4 or 5 sections. And then I got rid of a bunch of stuff. I retimed things, made the music match better. And then that was it.
Okay. Now, One thing I want to do real quick, and I want to tell you that's amazing about you because we didn't do that during the episode. Oh, one other thing that we did not do, we didn't actually tell when you actually published this book. That's one thing that we forgot about. It came out in May.
Yeah, it came out in May.
Yeah, we never did talk about the whole episode. I mean, we knew that it was out, but we didn't say like May or whatever. So I just
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to throw
that's
that.
okay. Because actually, technically speaking, I didn't have it in my hands on the actual release date. So it was technically listed as May 17th, but I didn't get the book from the printers until I think it was May 22nd. It was supposed to be released on a Tuesday, but I think I got it on the Thursday or potentially Friday, but I think it was the Thursday.
Okay.
Well, no, that couldn't have been, because if it was 17 to 22, I don't know. But anyway, it was a couple days after technically it was released. But yeah, I mean, that's just, that's very common too.
So the one thing I wanted to get at real quick was I noticed something that you do amazing. We had a little technical difficulty because of the weather or whatever a few days ago. But you actually, when you're going to do a show with someone, you actually give them publicity. You're not one-sided in this, because a lot of times this is, people call it collaborating or having a guest on, and sometimes it's just a feature. You come on, do the show, and you don't advertise anything. Not you, just people in general. You advertise being on here, even though we didn't get to do the episode then. I wanted to tell you thank you for that, because that little spark of interest, a few of your people that follow you started following the podcast. So I was like, I want to tell you thank you about that. And I'm glad that we were able to work it out, and you have a good flexibility on your schedule. So here's the thing that we like to do, because in the outtakes, we just do funny stuff. Could you tell us about any podcast that you've been on thus far, so that we can give them a little shine and a little light, so that they can go check out what you said over there? Because every time you talk to a podcaster, it's a different conversation. And didn't you do a live, if I'm correct?
A live one?
Yeah, didn't you do Instagram live or something?
I did do Instagram live, yeah, with Shelly Mac Books. So that was my Instagram live, my one Instagram live moment thus far. Yeah, and actually it was kind of interesting, because I don't know, like, you think because it's live, like, it does feel different, I guess, sort of, but like, then also not. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But anyway, that wasn't even your question. That was my one Instagram live moment. I also did a live YouTube show, not at all about writing, but about narcissists.
Whoa.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I've known plenty of those in my life. And so I did that on YouTube, and that to date, believe it or not, is the thing that has gotten the most hits, as far as like listeners or viewers, or however you want to count them.
Controversy sells.
It does, but I mean, I guess is narcissist. I guess narcissists cause a lot of controversy. I would like to think that educating people about them is not controversial, although they would probably
consider
not see it that way. But yeah, podcasts. So let me give a shout out to Jaime Alejandro Cruz, because his Arts Calling podcast was the first podcast that I had ever been on.
Okay.
And he's very gracious, and much like you, very just kind and warm towards people. That was my first podcast experience. And it's funny because, you mentioned, yeah, I do the shout outs if I'm going to be on something. And I'm almost 100% certain that you will have new followers because of that, because these people, I assure you, will want to be on your podcast. I only hope that you will greet them with the same kindness and receptiveness as you have greeted me, because poets especially are always looking for help getting the word out. I mean, we so very appreciate it, and we so much need it, because it's always the prose people, and nothing wrong with prose people. I'm about to become one of them technically myself. But the point is that doesn't surprise me at all. And in fact, I encourage it. I tell people when they follow me at some point, if they haven't figured out that they should be also trying to get on the shows that I do, or to do interviews that I do, even if it's in writing or whatever, like, you're missing out a huge component that you could also be doing to help yourself promote your work. I'm not just somebody who puts out my writing and I hold all of these publicity cards close to my chest. I'm not that person. As much as I teach people about my own writing and my own work, I try to teach them through the actions that I take about how to market themselves and how to connect with new opportunities like this podcast. Another podcast that I particularly enjoyed and did quite recently was My Bad Poetry with Aaron and Dave.
Okay.
And so this is a newer one. And the whole premise is you go on and you read your crappy poems, right? Like, so poem drafts that just are awful. Maybe you wrote them a long time ago. In my case, it was from I have this whole binder of writing that I did in undergrad, most of which I did nothing with. And it's pretty awful. I mean, it's entry level writing essentially. But that's what you have to do in order to become a better writer, is you just have to write. You have to get all of that stuff going, and some things rise to a higher level and some things don't. But anyway, so that was a lot of laughs. So I want to give a shout out to that podcast as well.
Okay, and I appreciate that, because I like you said, when we talk about marketing, and this is crazy, there's advertisement and promotion. You doing promotion, because advertising to me is a singular communication. We just project it out there and someone takes it and does whatever. But a full all around promotion, like with what you do, that makes the world go round. So I want to thank you for that. Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
Since this is just a little short, it's basically an outtake thing. If there was anything that we could do better in this podcast that we could have done, what would we have done better?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you had questions prepared, so that was good. You were familiar with the website. You asked me how to pronounce my name. I have been on one that was not the case.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little awkward. I've been on a podcast that was not meant to be, because I sat there for 2 hours while they tried to get their sound ready. And when I suggested, finally in my head, the idea clicked that, hey, can you just use your computer audio? They were not open to that. And so then I realized, wow, I should not have been waiting this long for people that were not willing to compromise with me as the guest. So I feel like you've done a lot right.
All right, thank you there.
So yeah, so I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other suggestions. I mean, the things that you've told me about, also appearing on YouTube and things like that, like you're like a podcast plus already. So I don't know that I, at this point in my being a guest on a podcast, have more higher level feedback, because I don't know that I have the experience as a guest. Because I mean, really, your podcast is one of the more advanced ones that I've been involved with thus far. So if I get involved with like something that's like through Oprah or something and like it's amazing, then I'll be like, oh, you know what you could do, JR, that Oprah does? Like she had this, and this. Like you should try that. Millions of dollars will be made.
The only thing that I think I could have done different, and it actually doesn't have to do with the actual podcast, it's the communication. Because sometimes with people, I'm one of those people, I have no boundary on when I send an email. Because you might get an email from me at 11 o'clock at night, and if you don't have do not disturb one, sometimes I like send an email at 11 o'clock. You might answer at 7 in the morning. I might answer at 9. I follow that kind of sequence. That's the only thing that I think that I should work on. And then I don't know really anything else, because I try to you want the show to be level, and you want it to get organic after 9 minutes. If a podcast can't get organic in 9 minutes, then it's not worth doing. And you'll figure this in the same vein. And then a rule of thumb that I follow, because I treat this just as if we were in a real studio in South Carolina, wherever, Florida, wherever. I only give people, which you have I always was taught in work to be 15 minutes early, but I only give people 6 minutes to have everything straight. So if the clock's at 4 o'clock and by 4 or 6, unless you're in a car and you have to do an interview with me or something's happened, I will reschedule your interview for another time and work with you there. But after 6 minutes, prior to that 15 minutes beforehand, so 21 minutes.
Yeah.
21 minutes, I will give someone from 45 after to 6 after to get things working in order. Because you shouldn't be doing something at if we did the show at 4 o'clock, I shouldn't be jumping in right at 4 o'clock and saying, "Hey, I got to get the microphone ready and all that other
Oh
stuff."
yeah.
So I'll give you that piece of advice that you can carry with you. And I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. Very proper in how you were detailed, because you paid attention to my email. I mean, to the little thing I put on Facebook. You don't know how many people will read that and send me something on Facebook Messenger, and I'll ignore it because I don't use like any social media I have. It's all silence. I look at stuff when I want to or when I have time. I don't ever. That's one thing I try to give to everybody. So if you do have notifications on for anything, turn them off. Social media wise, do it on your own time, because after a while, it's going to be a headache for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that you have amazing success, and I know you'll have success with this book. Continue doing what you're doing, in the etiquette that you have in communication with people during this. That's the reason why I'm doing this outside, because we don't get to talk about this part, the etiquette of a guest. You want to step above and beyond and promote it prior, and then something happened and we didn't do the show. And then we were able to do the show. So that showed me like, man, she is really into this. I was like, let me get my schedule, or let me get some power, because we could have done it Sunday or Saturday, but Sunday and Saturday, everybody's out doing something. We came to a date on Monday, worked it out. So I want to thank you for that, being very easygoing and going with the flow of things, because stuff happens.
Yeah.
So at the end of this, just a funny outtake that we'll do real quick. And this is not a serious question. This is actually kind of humorous. At any point when you were writing any of this, did you ever print out like your a chapter and accidentally spilled drink or something on it? Did you have any instance like where you had hard drive failure or anything
Oh my
crazy?
I would panic if that happens. Like I would I have so many redundancies, and this is one of the things that I greatly love about my fiance and greatly appreciate, is how much he emphasized the need for redundancies and backups of backups, so that could not happen in my life where I would lose like such. I mean, here's the only way that I could lose like work of that nature at this point in my life: if this whole place burned down and Google also burned down. That's literally like the only way that I would lose the majority of my life and my work. Otherwise, I'm backed up. But that being said, I did have a moment that's of a similar nature where I was doing a reading, and it was one of those pairings that I was doing. And it was, I actually called it a pairing, but because of the way that I had alternated my pages and then actual physical hard copies of different books that I was drawing from, I actually missed during a reading that was specifically important to me, because of the nature of the audience. I skipped over one of the pairings. Like, I read one of the poems, but not the other poem. And I actually figured it out while I was reading the next pairing. And so in my head, I'm like screaming, but I'm trying to read the words and not lose like track of where I'm at, because I'm like horrified. I'm embarrassed. I'm so angry at myself. I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. But what do? I can't go back. There's no going back. All of these thoughts are happening in my head while I'm still reading this page. And I'll have to go back and actually listen to the reading to see if there's like a moment where like I will hear my own hiccup, like where maybe my pacing changed, and which I personally will know, oh, that's the moment where I realized what I'd done. Yeah, there's no going back on that. So it's not a 1-for-1 comparison, but that's like the closest like similar thing that I can think of off the top of my head to like, I'm working on a piece of writing and I just completely like destroy it. Like, it's gone. It's like you can't get that moment back. I can't go back and bring that moment back and put like, it's out of order already. What are you going to do? So I ended up just skipping and just pretending like nothing happened, but I knew. I knew what happened.
Nobody else said anything?
No. And then that made me wonder, because I was like, oh my God, did I lose them already? Like, okay, there's one thing if they didn't notice, but was it that they didn't notice or that they were already zoned out and like they just like didn't care. And like, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that either. So it was like, after that reading, it was like, oh my God, like I had so many questions.
And now you got a way to stay on track, right?
Yes. Now I'm like, okay, we are either going to like, I am going to physically put every single thing in order, or I'm printing everything out, even if I have the book. Like, I'm not going to be like, like I have the collected tomb of Louise Gluck, which is what I did. And that's how I messed up. Okay, that's what got me out of order, was my hero and my idol of poetry, Louise Gluck, because I have this huge book, and the way I couldn't put my page in the right spot, and that's how I messed myself up. So in the future, what I would do is print out that poem instead of holding the book, or have the book there and just hold it up and then put it down and read from the printed page. So I would not get my pages out of order, because that is what you need to do, apparently, if you're Raegen.
Okay. Okay. And I thank you for that. And once again, this was just a little quick after show deal we were doing, little outtake, little fun thing. Want to thank you again, Raegen. And once again, Raegen, I lost your last name. Pietrucha.
Pietrucha.
Pietrucha. I'll get it. Thank you for your time. This is a little outtake. And one thing I want to leave the audience with on this note, one last shameless plug, because this will be something that comes out beforehand. So if you can give them a shameless plug to where they can meet you, greet you, and everywhere else.
Sure. So my website is raegenmp.wordpress.com. So that's RAEGENMP.wordpress.com. And I'm on Twitter at FreeRadicalRP, and on Instagram at RaegenMP.
And I'm JR from West Virginia and Commonplace, and we are signing off.